This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, with all power and signs and lying wonders, and with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. Shalom, shalom. Before I begin this lesson, I want to give all praise, honor, and the glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders and bishops, a great millstone that rule well. Peace and blessing be multiplied on all you brethren, pushing this word in all sincerity and in truth. Shalom to the hopeful elect, the 144,000. I'm the brother Damar Gabar here with another lesson, Lord willing to edify through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Yahweh Shai. All right. And as the scripture says, hey, the wicked, which is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, and his power structure, his media, his governments, his whole rulership on the whole, his false religions, his twisted and unrighteous monetary systems. All right. Every single aspect of this society is being consumed with the spirit of the mouth of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, which is the spirit of truth, which is coming first and foremost from the prophets, from his servants. And then eventually, you have these other, witnesses that are exposing this man for being the devil and his system for being corrupt and him for being the most unrighteous and, and all of his wickedness, You got a lot of these whistleblowers coming out and exposing this devil. And you even have one of his own creations, this whole chat GPT and Gronk and, artificial intelligence, they're coming out and they're exposing this man for being the damn devil that the Bible speaks of. So on every level, he's being exposed. He's being consumed. And in turn, what is he going to do? He's going to start to accuse. He's going to start to play the victim. And ultimately, he's going to start coming up against the prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, and basically all forms of the evidence and truth and, the info coming out on this damn devil, man. He's going to eventually start labeling everybody, not everybody, but, mainly the prophets, the men of the Lord, and anybody that's speaking a narrative, exposing him as a, terrorist or, misinformationalists, as enemies of the state, as voices that need to be silenced, people that needs to be casted away out of society. And this is why we're constantly urging you Jakes out there to get this truth while you can, because a great censorship, a great silencing of, of this truth mainly, but also of any information that's coming out damning this devil and exposing his corruption and his wickedness. And I say that because I was reading this article here. It says Tulsi Gabbard confirms Americans who oppose the you see that word there, were put on domestic terrorist watch list. All right. And now that's just for that, and it comes to find out everybody that was dropping true information about that situation was actually correct. And now these devils are having to come out and, admit to a lot of the information that they deemed as sea theorist or mis and disinformation as being true. But at the end of the day, with this damn devil, that don't matters anyway. He's still going to find a way to twist the narrative. He's still going to find a way to label those that, are speaking truth, that are speaking out against the wickedness and, calling out all of his BS to be domestic terrorists, man. And we know for a fact this is going to come down upon the prophets and men of the Lord and the so-called black Hebrew Israelites, as they like to, slanderously, call us. And this just further shows you that, look, man, these devils are watching everything that we do. And this is why we have to fully understand of what we're involved in. And ultimately, the level and the threat that this truth brings upon us, And of course, we know we're under the heads of Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, but at the same time, man, this is not a game. Hey, this devil he isn't playing, man. And like I said, we know a day is going to come to where he's going to be able to get at all of these, voices and people that he deems to be, domestic enemies of this system. And ultimately, anybody that tells the truth, anybody that exposes his agenda or his wickedness, especially the prophets of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, because we have the ultimate truth and we have the ultimate book and the ultimate, spirit to fully condemn this devil, to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. So you better believe a day is going to come to where we're going to be addressed in a major way. That we're not going to, just like they did in ancient Rome, they're going to find a way to come up against the Israelites and against this ministry and against this doctrine with pure force and violence. All right. So let's read some of this. It says, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard has declassified documents that reveal Americans who oppose the C mandates, including lockdowns, and mass orders, were placed on domestic terror watch lists. And you don't think that we were put on that? Because we were definitely a loud voice, continuously telling our people, don't take that shit. Don't trust it. Never trust thine enemy. It's all something not good. Don't be silly. Have faith. Trust in Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. You better believe they had us on that. And what further proves it, the fact that they were taking down all of our videos, man. And you better believe they have a personal individual file on each and every one of us that were out there showing our faces and openly coming out and condemning this, that whole CV. But on a greater scale, we're out there week in and week out condemning this whole society, condemning this whole power structure, condemning this man, Esau Edom directly to his face. So you better believe he has us, categorized as one of these individuals. It says, even Yahweh Shai and his men in their day were deemed, problems, considered turning the world upside down as a threat that needed to be dealt with, basically telling the powers that be that they're going down. Their judgment is at hand, and a new power and a new rulership, is going to be established as theirs is going to be destroyed, man. You see, and that's a message they don't want to continuously be going out, so they're going to have to try to deal with it, eventually. And we know that, it's going to be met violently, man, slanderously. It's not going to be fair. It's going to be twisted. It's going to be a narrative that's going to put us in the worst light possible. Shit, they might even accuse us of doing something extremely, extremely violent, which is just not true. But then again, this is why we tell you, brothers out there, you got to understand, they got a lot of agents. They got a lot of, individuals who have been infiltrated. A lot of these guys that are coming into these camps and acting like they're listening or on the comment boards putting down scriptures could all be potential agents, man. And we know at the time appointed, hey, these individuals are going to be used to blame this ministry in a major, major way. So this is why it's important for you to walk, in a way to which you personally are not causing this ministry to be blamed. Because, great offenses are coming, but you don't want to be found in the ultimate offense against Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. It says the Biden administration labeled those who disagreed with the government stance as domestic violent extremists. And like I said earlier, you had dumbass Hebrew Israelites with shirts saying that I'm a domestic identity extremist. Which is why we tell you a lot of these guys are moving very funny. They're moving in very agent-like behavior, So, like I said, don't get, keep it in your mind that at some point, man, hey, this truth will be addressed by these devils, man. And they're going to have particular of these bugged out, weird ass infiltrated camps, these agents as poster boys as to why, we're going to be offended and blamed. And this truth is going to be labeled as as terroristic and something that needs to be addressed. All right. And this is Isaiah chapter 29, verse 20. It says, for the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. And who's the terrible one? Esau Edom, man. And he is being brought to naught through the Spirit, through this truth, through this gospel. He is being brought to nothing. That's why such shameful spewing is on Babylon the Great. This is why you see things happening the way that they're happening. And basically America mainly is finding itself being isolated from, the world. And it has a whole lot to do with this gospel and this truth, which is turning the word upside down, And here's the point. It says, verse 21, that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of not. So be careful. We got to understand there's going to be more snares and traps being set for us out there on the highways and the byways. That's why we got to deal wisely, man. We don't have to engage with every single person that comes up, because a lot of these individuals are trying to engage, to start conflicts, to get us to act violently, to get us to do particular things so that we can be labeled and, accused, so we got to be wise, and understanding that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. And that's the main thing that Esau wants to paint us as in the public eye, as carnal. Oh, they're a hate group. Oh, they hate this. Oh, they hate white people. But not, but like I said, and they're going to use sensationalist type of tactics to turn everybody against us, to make it seem as if we're violent, and trying to link us as hating, Esau, Edom, as something violent, which we say all the time. Hey, you can hate anything, and it doesn't, hate doesn't always, equals violence, man. You can hate tomatoes, you can hate mayonnaise, you can hate whatever, shit, you can hate particular animals, but that don't mean that you're going to act out in a violent way every time you're engaged, or anytime you're, in contact with one of those things. Hate just means to have a very strong dislike for. It doesn't have anything to do with violence, but that's the narrative and the picture they want to paint upon us, but it's all good though. But this is Isaiah 29:21 in the NLT. It says, those who convict the innocent by their false testimony will disappear. A similar fate await those who use trickery to pervert justice, and who tell lies to destroy the innocent. All right, because at the end of the day, the true prophets in the middle of the Lord and all these other Israelite groups, of course, some of these niggas sold out. But as far as, the picture they're going to try to paint us as some hate group, as some militia that we're trying to do something violent, we're trying to attack all so-called small hats and white people, that's just a lie. But that's the narrative they want to paint. And like I said, a narrative they're going to try to create to make true. So like I said, so don't be surprised. Eventually they're going to, they might even use AI deepfakes and shit. Brothers, we got information of them was on the phone saying they're going to do this and they're going to do that. And they might even use AI to paint some false narrative of us trying to, blow something up or some shit like that. But, we just can't put it past these devils. Remember, they still have control of the media, and that's part of Esau's blessing and his sorcery and his witchcraft, to where he can really manipulate and twist the narrative on anybody that he wants to, just like he can make one of these, just like he can justify going to war with any of these countries, man. He can create scenarios and create things that'll happen to where he can be justified in going to war or acting violently, act out upon somebody. And like I said, the newest thing is this whole black fatigue. And now so-called white people are the minority, and they're the victims, and they're tired of being attacked. They're tired of this. They're tired of that. They're backed into a corner, so we can't put it past these devils as using something like that to further point the finger. It says, as Tulsi Gabbard explains, the federal government abbreviated the term to DVEs, domestic violent extremists. It says, Captain Harris, one of the journalists who obtained the newly declassified record, notes that the designation created an articulable purpose for FBI or other government agents to open an assessment of individuals. In other words, the government was making it legal for three-letter agencies to target known dissenters who had not broken any laws. You see, and this devil definitely has the power to do some sorcery and some wickedness like this, man. And he's going to use this to ultimately to deem everybody an enemy of the state, or a DVE, until further proven innocent. You see, it says, this is from Captain Harris. The Biden administration labeled opponents of the C mandates as domestic violent extremists. And guess what? I'm pretty sure those labels, whoever they tagged it on, hasn't been taken down. And you better believe they know what you're watching, to see what you're viewing on YouTube. They know the type of things that you're into, what you're watching, what you're thumbing up, what you're commented on. And these are all going to be cases that's going to stick on you and going to be filed against you when, they make their push to round up, people on the red, blue, with the red, green, what is it? The red, yellow, and green list, or whatever the hell it is, You see, it says the designation infringed on the First Amendment and opened the door to investigating Americans for V mandate skepticism. It says a former FBI agent told Harris that this is often the first steps toward a formal investigation. So I'm not going to read all that. It says, wow, so the so-called violent extremists were just parents, doctors, and concerned citizens warning that the experimental, you see that, might not be safe for young people. So just by saying that alone, which they knew all along that it wasn't safe. They knew all along what it was. Now that information is coming out, exactly what this shit was. So basically, people were being labeled domestic DVEs for telling the truth. So how much more us telling the ultimate truth of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, exposing this man, for being Esau Edom, the devil that the Bible speaks of, the son of perdition, telling our people that we're the Israelites, the biblical Israelites of the Bible. Exposing all the wickedness and the working of Satan that is taking place here on this earth, man. What the hell you think they got us deemed and tagged under? And like I said, the day is going to come to where he is going to come down with that great wrath, where he is going to, come in and looking for each every individual. But hey, may Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai be with us. But we know some of us are. Let me get that. Some of us are going to be rounded up. Some of us are going to be taken. Do I have it? No. Let me do it like this. All right, this is Revelation chapter 2, verse 10. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison that ye may be tried. You see? So some of us are going to be thrown in prison, for this truth, for this gospel, for our faith and testimony in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, for telling this truth. It says, and ye shall have tribulation 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I will give thee a crown of life. You see? And like we told you, these devils are making all type of cases. They're trying to pass all type of legislation to stop, so they say, so-called Christians from street speaking on the corners. You know who that's being directed at, man. And not only are we doing it on the corners, but we're doing it also on the internet. So all these things are going to be attacked. We're all going to be cornered. We're all going to be labeled. We're all, but not all of us are going to be, some of us are going to be cast into prison for this truth and for telling this truth. But like I said, it comes with the territory of being a servant to Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. All right. So it says, turns out they weren't spreading dangerous misinformation. After all, they were raising legitimate concerns that big pharma and government agencies are now quietly beginning to admit were valid all along. You see? So basically, they were wrongfully doing this shit because why? They wanted to control the narrative. They don't want this information to come out. And it further shows you that these devils are doing nefarious and wicked things behind closed doors, but presenting them as truths and, something to help the people. That's why we read. Like I've been quoting Ecclesiastes, the 10th chapter. You never trust thine enemy. What it say? Though he pretend to help thee, though he pretend to help you, he's looking to get the advantage and to throw you into a pit, man. That's why I read that Thessalonians, man, whose coming is after the working of Satan with all lying wonders, man. You see, it says, funny how the narrative shifts when the truth finally catches up. You see, but these devils are not going to stop, man. They're going to continue to do this shit. And like I said, they're going to allow something to happen to where they're going to be able to justify throwing anybody in prison, just because, they want to, and because that's what they need to continue to control the narrative. And this is Revelations 12:12. And it says, therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. And one thing that's really hindering and slowing down his new world order agenda is him being exposed and this truth shining the light on his wickedness, man. But as we know, hey, he's going to come down with great wrath anyway, and he's just going to be like a madman, sparing none to try to get this agenda in place. And one thing we know he's going to do is going to try to get those out of the way that are spilling the beans or that are, shining a light and informing others upon his wickedness, man. And this is Amos 5:10. They hate him that rebuketh in the gate, and they abhor him which speaketh rightly. All right. And if Esau hates you and he despises you, what the hell do you think he's going to do unto you, man? You think he's gonna sit to tell you and sit down, let's have a friendly debate and let's talk about this and see who's right? No, he's gonna put laws into place to where he's gonna forcibly silence you. He's gonna forcibly, here it is, he wanna call us a hate group and we hate, but he's really gonna be the one that's gonna show his hate with violence, man. He's by locking you in prison indefinitely. That's why Trump is talking about this whole doing away with habeas corpus and the right to have fair trials and being able to just lock anybody up without telling them why and without a trial and without due process, because they have to silence those that are rebuking in the gate, which starts with mainly the men of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, man. So that's why we got to continuously pray, man, stay in the spirit, and we can't bitch up and get afraid of what this devil is going to do. But like the scriptures say, hey, when the devil comes down, when he comes down, the Lord's going to lift up a standard against this devil. I know I didn't quote it verbatim, but, brothers know what I mean. But, hey, the stage is being set, man. Well, eventually, they're going to be able to pull this off and really establish it. So we just got to make sure that we're in the spirit and we're, doing the Lord's will, and the Lord take care of everything else. So with that, Lord willing, this was edifying. All praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. To the next one. Shalom.